So thank you very much for to all of you for joining today. This webinar is a legal AI talk. Today we're going to discuss legal design 2.0. I'm joined by three fantastic speakers, panelists. I'm very much looking forward to the conversation, the discussion with you. And to kick it off, I would ask you, Alisha, to quickly introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. So besides my role of reading 5 books simultaneously and never finishing one, I'm a lawyer, actually. I'm co-founder of This is Legal Design. We're a consultancy helping mostly legal departments how to approach innovation and create user-centered services. And I'm also the chairwoman of the German Legal Tech Association.
Thank you very much for joining. Anne, do you want to go next?
Sure, of course. So my name is Anne, and I'm self-employed. I'm a fractional and interim counsel. Just because it's such a new term for the German market, I think, and for the DACH market. Fractional is if you don't have capacity for a legal function, then you can get a fractional service, which is just spending like a fraction of time on legal topics. And interim is to bridge gaps between hiring or if you have like maternity covers or anything like that. So this is what I'm doing. And the second part of my self-employment is legal and innovation advisory. So everything regarding legal ops is something that I'm focusing on to get legal departments more efficiently running. Besides that, my third job is I'm being a full-time mom, basically taking care of my kid during the day and working at night because we don't have any daycare spot yet.
All right. In that case, thank you very much for actually finding the time and joining us today for this discussion. Gordian, could you please introduce yourself very quickly?
Yes. Right now I'm CTO at Legartis, which means I have an IT background and I also oversee the AI and product development at Legartis. Legartis is not my first startup. I have over a decade of startup experience. Usually building software consultancy for corporates, which I'm also doing at Legartis. And now I'm glad to be doing that with Legartis and especially on the legal side, which is quite an exciting field to work in.
Really great to have you here today. And then last but not least, my name is David. I'm a co-founder of Legartis. I have a legal background, worked as a lawyer, and then got into legal tech, legal AI about 8 years ago. Co-founded the company, built it up to what it is today, and today I'm the company CEO. And for today, I'm going to moderate the discussion. And since we have a lot to talk about, let's go into that right away. So what are we going to speak about? Just a few years ago, AI in the legal world was basically a glorified spell checker, helping us to draft something a bit faster, maybe to translate something, to flag a clause, or to potentially even summarize something. Now we're entering actually a new phase, agentic systems. These are more than just tools. They're digital colleagues. They can draft, decide, potentially execute from contract creation to real-time case analysis. They're not just assisting lawyers. They're actually starting to think like one of them. With AI now processing text, audio, visuals, we're hitting a real turning point. 2025 could actually really be the year where AI not just stops at knocking on the door, but actually walks into the boardroom. And that opens up a lot of new applications. Maybe, and we're going to talk about this, even new business models. But there's one central catch: humans. So adoption doesn't just happen on its own. Legal tech only drives value when actually people do actually use it, and they need to use it well. So according to a recent study I read, where about 1,000 clients were asked about what's crucial, about 80% of the feedback was about human qualities. Not legal skills, not something technical. It was really about human qualities and things like business understanding, emotional intelligence, and creativity. So the big question is, AI accelerates, but can we actually keep up with it? And that's where legal design comes in. That's what we want to explore today with Alisha, Anne, and Gordian. And so let's jump into that right away. And the very first question we all have is, or not all have, but definitely is there, is what is legal design actually? Alisha, can you help us in that regard?
I feel like I have maybe answered that question before, so yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so first of all, for everyone in this room who thought that legal design is only about graphic design, you have been mistaken, and I'm happy to clarify because this is one of the most common misunderstandings about legal design, to only think of it as a visual design component. Actually, legal design is an innovation approach. So the main goal of legal design is to make the law and to make legal services more user-friendly, more accessible, to create value for users. So it is a very user-centered approach. And in legal design, we're using different methods, the core method being design thinking. And design thinking is actually a method that was not invented by lawyers, of course not. It was invented a long time ago, and it's being used all over the world to create innovative and user-centered solutions. And now we started using design thinking in the legal field as well, in order to translate complexity, in order to, well, it's actually a problem-solving approach, so in order to create better solutions for users. And I think that this is really important in times where the law is getting more and more complex, legal services are getting more and more complex, and also technology is rapidly evolving, as you have just described. And so it's even more about translating translating user needs into services, into processes, into tools, into communication. This is where communication also plays an important role, but it's just one component of many to create better solutions for users.
Cool. So understanding that, now the big topic today is AI. We all can say we're in the middle of an AI hype.
Yes.
And the question really is, are clients actually coming to you with totally new types of requests tied to AI, or how does this current enthusiasm show up at your company?
Mm-hmm. So the hype is definitely real. So we can feel it all over. When a couple of years ago or the previous years, we've only been discussing, hey, let's talk about legal tech. What is hot in legal tech? Now everyone is talking about what are the AI tools that we can use? How can we make use of AI in our company? And everyone wants to discuss use cases and what tools they can use for themselves. And I think that is good and bad at the same time, because on the one hand, it's great that we're really firing up the whole digital transformation process. And when there were still some legal departments thinking that they can sort of ignore digital transformation, I think now this is the time when you realize, okay, there is no ignoring it anymore, because in the end, the CEO or the CFO will be in your department saying, hey, what are your AI use cases? You really need to start working on that. So I think that is a good thing, because it's really powering up the whole transformation process a little bit. On the other hand, I still see a lot of focus on AI as a technology and not enough on the functionalities that we're really looking for. And this is where I'm saying, okay, so design thinking, legal design is an approach to create value for users. So it's based on what functions do people need. And this is something that I don't see enough at the moment, because people are very focused on AI as a technology in total without thinking too much about what they actually expect from it. But this is where we need to get in. So I'm still looking at it very positively, that people are really woken up now.
Cool. So Anne, from your side, from your perspective, in-house, how do you see it? What stands out at the moment? Do you see similar trends, similar things you observe when you look at the legal departments you work in?
Yes, definitely. I see the same happening as Alisha described already. I see there's a huge shift in mindset. Like when we were talking about legal tech and not about AI a few years back, I saw that everybody was trying to talk about it, but not too many companies were actually integrating legal tech. But now I think the changes are really coming from the area that the CFOs or CEOs are really trying to push AI, because it's like sometimes even a company mandate that they really want to have AI integrated. And with legal tech tools, it was just not on the radar of them. They were seeing it as a cost center, like a cost item, but not as a benefit deliverable. So I think this changes now that we are talking about AI tools instead of legal tech tools. And I think legal departments who want to benefit from this can now do that because they will get more budget for such tools, I believe. And I think like the mindset is really shifting in the legal departments as well. Everybody's super excited about the change that I've been talking to in the recent past. And the only thing that I really see as an issue is also exactly what Alisha described. Like sometimes we are not involved in the beginning, but rather in the end. So basically a tool gets purchased and then we are integrated from a legal ops side or from a legal innovation, legal design perspective to help streamline the processes then. But the step which we need to take a look at first is really identifying the use cases before purchasing the right tool, because there are so many tools out there that promise AI, and it's really difficult for someone in the legal department. I mean, this topic is very new to all of us. Like AI is a buzzword. AI is being used by so many companies that are not actually delivering AI. And so we need to define clearly the use cases on what we want to expect from the AI to deliver, and then take it from there and do a user-centric approach to implement it.
Fascinating. I think we've already heard a lot of really interesting things. Gordian, you as a CTO of a legal AI company, what's your take? What do you observe, and how do you go, or how do you see one needs to go about this?
Yes, I mean, actually, we are seeing pretty much the same, since we also have corporate clients. What we noticed on previously was that when we talk to new clients, or say our sales was talking to new clients, is that we had to basically teach everyone from scratch. Everything was quite new, and this has definitely changed. So now potential clients, customers, and so on, they are coming with pretty much set expectations of what the tool can do or what it needs to do, or basically they want a problem solved. And that is one big thing that definitely has changed. On the other side, the problem that we also see is that the people who usually come to us now are the people who actually definitely need something solved, which is good. But at the same time, they often don't have the time. So it might be just the overworked corporate lawyer who needs a tool, but looking for a tool, adopting it in the department and so on, that takes a lot of time. And what we notice that many companies don't even have such a thing, such as legal design, or they don't have someone who helps them with that. So it then falls back to people who are already overworked. And when it's a chicken egg problem, you need a tool to be less overworked, but at the same time, implementing a new tool just does take a lot of time. And I think that's a general thing with digitalization projects. Before AI, it was maybe not that interesting for departments to be digitalized, and now it's something completely new. So maybe it also comes with a bit of surprise to legal departments that even a non-AI tool would take a lot of time to implement in a company. And one final thing that I notice also sometimes, but that comes also back to legal design as a process. You can't just digitalize an existing process. Maybe it also might make sense to rethink the whole process before digitalizing it. And that all takes work, and I think that is the main challenge right now.
So one can definitely say you all agree that there is a hype. What I hear is that the focus is very much on yes, we want to do something with AI, so to focus on the actual technology, not really thinking about, okay, what do we actually want to solve? There's a lot of excitement, which can definitely help. At the same time, we heard people don't actually have the time to then do the actual implementation. And I think what is linked as well to that is what we heard is that there's not a lot of experience then with such projects. And so that really brings up the big question. So what are roadblocks? What are the big showstoppers when it comes to actually putting AI cases into practice? Anna, help us to understand, where do you encounter those challenges in your day-to-day work?
So first of all, seconding all that Gordian said, I really, really think that integrating an AI tool or any tool that helps legal departments run more smoothly, it requires a lot of work. And I think that legal departments are usually not seeing that when they are looking into integrating a tool. They are really thinking, hey, if I purchase a tool for a huge amount of money, I mean, it's a lot of spend for them to integrate a tool, right? They believe that it will solve all the problems directly at once. And then they get surprised and see like, oh my God, who's doing that work? Like, I mean, am I not supposed to do the work as a legal in-house counsel? Does my IT department do it? The IT department will say no, I can tell you. So it will end up on the legal department to improve and implement the tool, to feed it with data and so on. So it's a lot of first investment on the legal department side, not only cost-wise, but also capacity-wise. And that needs to be taken into account before purchasing the tool from my perspective. And I mean, looking into the US, for example, because I have a lot of experience from legal ops side in the US market, there is usually a legal operations professional within the US legal terms. It's working very closely normally with the general counsel and normally does not do any legal work besides the legal operations functions. So there is really a dedicated person in the US who's working on all these processes, and it's a full-time resource. Sometimes they have big teams of legal operation functions, and those have the knowledge, those have the capacity to really implement something like that. And if you now, as a legal team, let's say maybe a scale-up or startup with only one legal counsel or maybe two legal counsel, anything like that, try to implement a legal tech tool, a legal AI tool, then you first need to solve the capacity issue on how to implement it properly, because otherwise you will lose the trust of the management if you implement a tool, purchase something for money, and then simply lose on the implementation and don't implement it properly to gain the efficiency that you wished for it. And then secondly, if you're not a small legal department, but a big one, I think the biggest showstopper when we're talking about AI use cases is really change management, because the bigger your team is, the more difficult it gets to really get everybody involved, everybody on board, because everybody has so many different experiences and expectations about what the AI use cases are. So it's really about trying to get an analysis done before purchasing a tool, what everybody is expecting or the main stakeholders are expecting in your legal department, what a tool shall deliver and what it does not even have to deliver, so that you can then source for the right AI tool to implement. And I really believe that a legal design approach, a user-centric approach, is the key to analyze that properly. And that's why, Alisha, I think you will be the best person to answer on that. What do you think?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, one thing that legal design cannot help about is sort of coming up with resources that don't exist. So this is something that needs to be clarified. Is there a budget? Is there a dedicated resource? Because I think we all agree that this is not a job that you can just do sort of like Wednesday after 6 p.m. I'm going to take 30 minutes for innovation. It's not going to happen like that. So I think that is just a baseline that we all need to agree on. However, legal design is an approach that can help us sort many of the problems that we have and find the right project approach for it. Starting off really early on, because Gordian just mentioned it, sometimes the process doesn't make sense to be digitized as it is right now. So in a legal design approach, we always look at the problem, first of all, as if we didn't know anything about it. So we're not entering a project knowing that we definitely want a tool that can do this and that. We actually enter a project with that idea of we need to learn about the challenges that exist, and we need to understand them better, first of all. We need to understand them from a user perspective. So that, for example, can lead to the situation that you understand that a process itself is already broken. So we don't need technology resources on that project. We need something else on that. We need to fix that first. So that can also help us to allocate our resources properly. Then again, because I see that as a huge roadblocker, many of the issues that we have in technology projects are not about the technology, but about any groundwork that we need to do. That could be creating the content, first of all. So you have a contract management tool that you're offering. In that case, you usually need something like either a clause library or a playbook that can help us review contracts. So you need certain rules, you need certain responsibilities and processes being defined already before any tool enters the room. So this is something that we often see as a huge roadblocker. And this is, again, it's not a technology problem, but in a legal design approach, we can really understand the different buckets of our issues and then allocate the right resources to it and do it in the correct order. And I totally agree with you, Anna, that the needs that we have among the whole teams need to be identified before we even enter the legal tech market to look for a tool. And that is actually something where both the users and the providers take benefit from. Because for a provider, it's also really frustrating to talk to customers all the time where you cannot actually serve their needs or they don't know anything about their needs. So it's much better when you come prepared and you already have an idea. And when it comes to that, I think also legal design is a good approach to get everyone's needs from the whole team. And I agree with you, the bigger the team, the more complicated that gets, because you cannot really sit down with every single person and try to understand every single work process, but you need to sort of identify people that stand for certain groups in order to understand their needs. And then you need to also review that for the whole department and prioritize. And I think prioritization is also really, really important, because once you open up with a problem approach like legal design, you see many challenges because you're entering the project as if you didn't know anything about a problem or a solution. So all of a sudden you see all those issues, and then you need to, in this approach, you definitely need to sit down and prioritize also based on facts like what does affect most people in this department? Is this just a very, very special time blocker, or is that a problem for many people? So this needs to happen, and that needs to be part of your selection process. So before you enter the legal tech market, this all needs to be set. And then again, legal design is a user-centered approach. So that means that we're also integrating users among this whole process. We do sit down with them for interviews. We do brainstorm together with them for functionalities that they would be looking for. And we do test with them when we implement a tool. So I think this is, at least for now, that's the best we can do when it comes to change management and to get people on board. Although I'm not a change management expert, I want to say that. But I think it's, at least from my perspective, that's the best we can do to get people on board here.
So we've heard prioritizing and actually going smartly about the whole approach. Gordian, from your perspective as a provider, what slows you down the most? Or in other words, where do you see the potential to actually move quicker in creating use cases or working with customers?
Yes, I think we already talked a lot about and I agree that basically if you're too busy with your own work or you don't have the time set aside, then that definitely slows us down. But there's another point I would also like to highlight. Even if you make basically the time at the start and you also focus at the start to set up a tool, you also should set up time for the future, because AI is just growing so fast that you basically need to iterate over your processes, which means, let's say, you actually do all the work that we just talked about. You actually set together, you have a legal process set in place, you know how to digitalize the process. Also reserve some time for the future. It will probably not be as much time as the initial start, but you still probably need to think about maybe in 6 months the AI will become much better, which is very likely. And then you should also make time available to sit down with your provider or maybe again with the legal specialist in legal design and see what has improved, what can we get out of our tools now. Because if you just use a tool now, it might be outdated in 1 year. And even if a provider, I'm saying this from our side, they are probably adopting very fast already, it still means there's some effort on the client side to also get up to date and maybe also now solve use cases that no one could solve before. And I think that is definitely a big challenge which slows us down, that we also need time of our clients every other month, or maybe even every half year, because AI is definitely progressing quite fast.
I would like to emphasize that, because I think that is one of the most important mind shifts that need to happen among all people using AI technology, is that digital transformation is not a procurement process. It is not purchasing a tool and then it's a done process. It's actually an ongoing thing. So that whole mind shift or mindset of iteration as part of your business, I think that needs to happen. I feel like we're not there yet, but this is going to be a constant process, because there is so much changing that can be on the technology side, because like you were saying, like maybe you'll have features in the future that you don't have today and that you couldn't foresee. And you're building that on the feedback that you receive from users. So you're iterating constantly. But it can also be that something changes on the user side, because all of a sudden it could be a legal change or it could be something completely different. And that needs to be part of the process. This is not something that should surprise you in the future, like, oh my God, we set it up and now we have to make changes to it. No, actually, the change is ongoing, the change is happening. So I think that's extremely important also for the users to realize that.
And let me add up to that as well. I think what is a huge problem in mindset, again, is on both sides, by the way, on provider and on customer side, the AI game is changing so quickly, as you all described. The providers are developing on the AI stuff so much, like everybody is trying to get the fastest, delivering the best results. So there's an issue, of course, if you in the legal department decide for a tool and then only a few months after see, oh, damn, the competitor now has delivered a better result. There's a new function that I want to have as well. And then you start thinking probably, like, do I stick to the provider that I am currently with, or do I look outside and look for another one? And then if you get into that position, don't forget that changing from one provider to another, again, doesn't solve all the problems, because yes, you gain a new tool, then you gain a new functionality, but you then again have the integration task again. And reintegrating from one tool to another can be a super complex task as well. So it's a very, very difficult game that we are in currently, because everything is just developing so quickly. And I think it can be a real, real burdensome road for some people who look for the future when they purchase a tool, but nevertheless don't lose the trust in the tool that they have purchased. So it's really difficult to find the right balance there, I think.
Really, really interesting on it. It's basically a different sort of fear of missing out. Fear of missing out drives you to actually start implementing AI, but at the same time, you keep looking around. So trusting your partner and actually believing in a partnership seems very important. I think we've now discussed a lot about challenges and what you need to take into account when actually starting on working with AI. So let's look at the other part, the opportunities. So looking ahead, yes, 2025, a lot is changing, and potentially new business models actually could emerge from that, especially in the sector of legal design and AI. Alisha, how do you see that?
So I do see a lot of potential at the intersection of legal design and AI, because I believe what it can do is, in the long term, in general, to create more and more user-centered legal services. So from a client's perspective, I feel that AI technology could help me more and more to tailor what I really need. So that could mean that I'm being addressed within the right tone of voice. That could mean that I'm being addressed without any legal jargon, because I don't understand any of that. So an AI could translate difficult terms for me. That could mean that based on my user needs, which an AI can also analyze, I'm getting the exact right amount of personal interaction or non-personal interaction that I'm looking for. So I'm thinking in that direction, like what can it do to clients? And especially, okay, so one like easy use case would be, I don't understand any legal documents that I get. So, I mean, I do personally because I'm a lawyer, but everyone who's not has a huge problem with that. And to just get an AI translation, maybe even including certain graphics that make it much easier for me to understand what my lawyer actually wants to tell me. So that would be like one of the easiest use cases. And it's also sort of making our business model obsolete, or maybe it's boosting it up, because that's a lot of the work that we do as well. And then on the other hand, looking at the legal users, I feel like the smart legal assistants that we have, they could become just so much better based on user requests and answers that have already been given in the past, for example. And then again, also when it comes to stuff like contract reviewing, extracting certain rules for our company that we want to have being part of our review process. to sort of streamline that, to automate that, so that we don't even have to make the rules anymore, but an AI can help us do that, and then integrate that into a playbook. And I think actually this is sort of what you're doing already at Legartis, because we discussed it in a pre-conversation shortly, and I wasn't even sure if I'm talking about the future or if you already have that. So let's hear about that later on. But I think that's what I'm thinking, in like client side and lawyer side both can definitely profit.
So yeah, we're definitely gonna hear Gordian talk about that later on. But before we go into this, Anne, where do you see the biggest potential for disruption? Disruption in a legal department.
I really like what Alisha said about the translation service kind of thing.
Okay.
Because I mean, as someone working in a legal department, we all know those lawyer emails, and we all love them, that are so long, filled with information, filled with legal definitions and subsumption. And it's such a nice read. I mean, if you really have time, then it's a great read sometimes, but it's not what the business needs. The business needs clear answers. And in a legal department, what usually one of the tasks is that you're facing then is to translate this manually into the business needs and to give them a clear answer. So I think, like, for legal departments, this is a real disruptive optimization process if an AI could do the translation work, because this is also it's not fun to a legal department, I would say, and you would gain more time to really focus on the strategic topics, right? And another thing that I think could be really, really beneficial, where an intersection of AI and legal design could really help, and that is when it comes to contracts, contract negotiation, contract lifecycle, and so on. So I mean, historically seen, like, legal departments are usually a cost center, and we need to try to make the shift to becoming like an enabler and to offer self-service kind of style to the business partners. And if now an AI comes in to review contracts, they will still receive a legal terminology. They will still receive a legal red line. So the business itself, yes, they can then take that and forward it to another business. But once the comments come back, then we are facing the same situation, that either an AI needs to look at it again, or a lawyer then manually has to screen through again to give feedback to what the business on the other side needs. So I think this is like where still a translation kind of thing from a legal design perspective could be beneficial to really help understand what the AI delivers to the business, and to really deliver kind of a use case that the business can then understand what the AI delivered as a red line, for example. And I mean, that could be an AI tool again, right? Or it could be someone like Alisha or me helping a business to understand the legal design use cases behind it and to focus on a user-centric deliverable of the AI solution.
I very much like that. We're actually not talking about efficiency or mitigating risks, but we're actually talking about making our lives easier, more enjoyable. Very much like that approach. Gordian, as someone building the tech, where would you invest your time and money right now, or where are you actually doing this? Where do you see the biggest potential?
Yes, I'm really happy to talk about where we are actually investing our time and money now, and also our thoughts, because previously as Legartis, our main use case, or right now it's also the main use case, is to review contracts or let customers review contracts of our AI. And I think that is quite the obvious use case. So of course, our main goal is to make that work quite well. And that is always a lot of work. But what we noticed, and that's also something Alisha mentioned, of course, when creating the playbooks and everything that comes with it, creating the playbooks, thinking of what you want to check, and also when creating the prompts for the AI, that actually takes a lot of time. And that takes much more time also than we and also our clients expected. So, well, what we think is, hey, why not actually use AI to actually digitalize and assist doing all these onboarding steps, so that when the people who actually don't have much time to set up all these things up are also assisted in these parts. So that can be anything. That can be right now creating a playbook, which means, for example, we are investing time into creating an AI agent that assists in that part. That can also be prompting. And that's also a big challenge. I think last year we even had a lot of webinars on prompting and how to prompt. I think this year this will actually become less relevant, because now we are thinking, hey, why does the user need to prompt? Why cannot AI do that part, or our AI agent? And I mean, this can go on and on, but basically what we want to achieve is make the user actually less unhappy during the onboarding process, make them save time, so that we can actually get started on the main use case. And this is where a lot of time and money goes into.
So I heard you right. Creating playbooks will be automated very soon when working with Legartis.
Definitely. And what I still think is important is, of course, that the flow makes sense. And in the end, I think there's still some final word from a lawyer, especially from a strategic part, that they can still make a final decision. But I think AI and the lawyer should work together. And I think that's something we are implementing right now that enables this process.
That's really exciting. So Alisha and Anne, we talked about, or you mentioned before, the different new roles within legal departments, as well as how one should go about new projects. But let's assume these business models take off. What does that actually mean for the role of lawyers? What skills or mindsets that we have today are still going to be relevant in a year from now? Alisha, do you want to answer first?
Sure, I can start. I think Gordian just gave a good example of what we thought, or many people thought, skills were needed are not necessarily the ones that will really be needed. So last year, everyone would be like, people have to learn how to prompt. The prompting is like the number one skill that we will need as lawyers. I never really agreed with that. I do believe that it is really important to just sort of regularly use AI also by prompting in order to get generally used to it, because we all have our barriers in how much new things we can let into our lives. And so we all just need to get used to certain interactions. That's why I think it's great also to use, even just for easy stuff, use tools like ChatGPT rather on a daily basis. But that's not the core skill that we're going to have to need. That's only about easily learning use cases, easily learning the limits of AI. I believe that actually what we need more is the complex and strategic thinking that we have as lawyers, and that AI is going to take so much of the work that we do next to the value-driven strategic thinking, that this part is actually going to be way more important. So we need to become even smarter when it comes to our legal knowledge, and to be able to analyze and review new complex situations. I think that is really essential. We need to be able to challenge AI results. So we need to have a critical thinking that is being backed by our legal knowledge. And we also need to be able to work with other disciplines together. So an interdisciplinary approach is something that we see happening more and more in the future. And we need to be able to talk to other people that are not lawyers, that have an IT background, or maybe even not an IT background, but it's just really in general interdisciplinary competences. And I mentioned it before, the mindset of iteration is something that we don't see a lot yet in the lawyer sphere, because lawyers are used to come up with a result when they think it's ready, and they deliver something that they think is perfect at the time. And that is something that we need to learn, that it's also okay to start off with something that is not perfect yet, and that we will iterate on, and that we will receive feedback for. And I think that is something that we're all struggling with as lawyers. So iteration mindset may be a new mindset that we need to evolve, and strategic thinking is something that we need to become even better in.
Anne, do you agree?
I couldn't agree more. And I could repeat all the points that Alisha said, because I agree 100% on all of these. And maybe let me do a prediction to the future instead. So from my perspective, there are two groups of people, of lawyers, that will lose in the AI game, and one kind of group that will win heavily. So the two groups are people that deny the existence of AI and simply don't integrate them at all. I think there will be some. There will be definitely some. And then the other part of group is people that will integrate AI, but don't build emotional intelligence skills. So really not only focusing on the AI part, but really on the emotional part behind the AI, because an AI is not emotional intelligent, but we as humans, we are. So who will win? Everybody who will focus on AI, yes, integrate AI, but don't forget about the human perspective behind it. And I think the role of lawyers in that regard would change really to becoming more strategic, but also to becoming even more a business partner in understanding their needs, understanding the human perspective from them, because everybody who has a problem might have fears behind it and so on. And understanding those fears, where it's coming from, this will be where we as strategic partners, as lawyers, will kick in and evolve in the AI future.
Right. Really cool prediction. Gordian, with being the person in the room that doesn't have a legal background, so you have a different perspective. Do you agree with what Alisha and Anne said?
I wish I could make it more exciting and disagree, but it's hard. So
Right.
I think I cannot find anything to disagree with. I would agree with all the points. But what I would also really highlight, I think, is what Alisha said on the prompting before. So I don't think lawyers need to become AI experts or understand the AI technology necessarily. I think it's definitely more about being open to using technology. Because the technology was fast, you need to be able to use it. But still, I think the core competence of a lawyer is still the most valuable thing. And that can be then, of course, what was mentioned before, the strategic thing, but also maybe in very niche areas where you have special legal knowledge that will still be very valuable. But using that together with AI, I think that's where it becomes, of course, really valuable.
Let me add something to disagree.
Okay.
I think understanding the AI is super important for us. I mean, we don't have to go into all the technical specialties behind it, but we need to have a rough understanding of the AI to identify if someone is selling you a good thing or if it's actually nothing that will improve my daily work. Because if I don't understand the use case and the tool, how it delivers it itself, then how shall I make the right purchase decision? Because sales team obviously will sell me stuff, and I need to rely on something. So that would be my technical knowledge. Or if I don't have the technical knowledge, I need to find an expert who can help me on that.
Could it maybe be? Go ahead, Gordian. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to say you can, of course.
Yeah, please.
But it's easy to not see that point as a solution provider. So that's definitely a fair point. Because we never have to purchase tools.
I guess, Anna, could one say it's potentially understanding the technology, or even more important, actually knowing what question you need to ask?
That's a very good one. I like that.
Okay.
I also agree that like a couple years ago, like when we were still discussing legal technology in general, before we had that idea of lawyers need to learn how to prompt, we had that idea of lawyers need to learn how to code. So I'm happy that at least we're not discussing that anymore. Because it's just not the right approach. This is why we need to be able to work in interdisciplinary teams. That's why we need to have those competences, not to be the experts on everything, because we're so used to that. But that's not to bring us anywhere. I totally agree with Anna. You need to have some basic knowledge, or maybe even understanding where your lacks are, so you can get someone in. I think that's also extremely important. Because sometimes some lawyers are also struggling, realizing where their knowledge is not the main expertise anymore. And I think that's a good thing, actually, to be aware of, that when you're not the expert, that you're being aware of your own possible knowledge gaps that you might have, and then get someone on board who can help you with that.
Makes totally sense. So in the end, one could probably summarize, it's all about building bridges. Knowing what are your capabilities, what do you know, but at the same time really making the effort and wanting to understand your counterpart, being it a provider, being it your internal customers, and so on. Cool. Gordian, reality check. So if someone like Alisha and Anne would come to you tomorrow and would have a great idea, how long would it actually take you to take this use case live, considering tech and integration and everything we've heard today?
Yes, I would like to split that into maybe two different aspects. And one is just building a proof of concept, because I think building proof of concepts can be done very quick with AI, and that's one of the nice benefits. You can just quickly get something done and see if it actually works, which still has to be done, especially for things that have not been done before. And that you can actually do probably in a few weeks, maybe 1 month. You can quickly check, does my use case work at all? But to be realistic, getting then out and building an actual feature, delivering it to your users, and by delivering, I also mean everyone is using it in the end. So basically, it also includes user training and so on. I still think we need at least like 6 months or more to get something production ready out and all the users using it. And that's still an ambitious timeline.
How does that sound, Alisha? Anne?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I think Anna can also talk about that from the in-house perspective. I just want to mention that there are 2 questions in the chat, and one of them I think is also going a little bit in that direction. But Anna, why don't you start?
I mean, I think it's super, super helpful to know that it can be implemented quickly, let's say. I mean, some projects, if they need a longer time, obviously, this is then again starting the process that we talked about earlier, where some people might then think, oh, but your competitor already has it, and so on. So I think it's the run between the legal tech providers and the AI providers that then starts to kick in, right? But I think it's very helpful to discuss like timeline expectations. So that's very helpful information, I think.
Good. So yeah, Alisha, you mentioned it. Before we actually go into the Q&A, let me just very quickly share my screen again. And just quickly mention before we actually start with the Q&A round. So if you actually want to benefit from a pre-trained, tested AI for contract analysis, reach out to us at Legartis, book a demo. If you want to innovate your processes with legal design, please book a call with Alisha and her team. And if you want to get support by a fractional and interim counsel, then reach out to Anne. You have 3 QR codes here. Please use those. So coming back to the questions, and we're going to start with the ones that are in the chat. Let me quickly open the chat. And so what approach do you see as most common for legal departments? To use technology to empower the lawyers in providing legal advice, or act as a filter between the department and operation colleagues by offering self-service solutions in certain areas and tasks? Do you believe this will change in the future? Who wants to take this?
Let me maybe take this one first. So I think right now it's definitely acting as a filter and trying to offer self-service solutions. I see a lot of clients implementing self-service solutions, and I think this is a great approach. But I think that definitely will change in the future. It will stick, I would say. Self-service products are great to enable the business to proceed quickly. But I really, really think that technology, once evolving in the legal department and once integrated, it will really, really help the lawyers to do manual tasks, reoccurring tasks, and focus on the high strategic level things with high risk, etc. So I think both of them will be side by side in the long run. Alisha, do you add anything to that? Or
I'm just wondering if I would have disagreed with that. I also do. We get contacted a lot for the client-lawyer interaction. So I was thinking I'm probably biased because I see a lot of that, especially when it comes to legal front door self-services. That's a lot of the work that we do. But if you're also agreeing that there is a big focus on that, and maybe that's the case, and maybe it's also a little more, I don't know, I feel like it's because it's not really changing the way that you work. Maybe that's also like you would rather want others to work differently. So you're introducing like a ticket system and a self-service solution, and it's not changing so much about your own work. At least in a lot of law firms, we see that they're only interested in like client portals, but they're not so much interested in making changes in their own work. But I do believe that this is definitely also already changing, because many people are thinking about how they can make use of certain tools, how they can make their own lives easier. So definitely.
But I mean, you're completely right. It sounds so much easier to change someone else's way of working instead of changing your own way of working. this is completely right.
Let's take the second question in the chat. Are companies offering partially trained AI engines so that the legal department is not starting from scratch, but see the advantages quickly? The building and training of AI legal engines doesn't offer the reward at the beginning, as users will struggle at the beginning. I guess, Gordian, that goes to you.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So actually for me, that's two questions. So yes, there are. I mean, I can definitely speak from us. Basically, we do offer pre-trained AI, which means you can basically just go ahead and, for example, check NDAs, but also other contract types, which are already pre-trained or out of the box. But I think the second point is almost much more interesting. I think we are also investing a lot that customers can train AI very easily without much effort. And I think that's also important because, yes, starting very quickly is important, but that also adding more and more contracts, for example, or other things is important as well. And I think that's where a lot of companies are also struggling right now.
I believe this is why it's just so essential to understand where it can provide value for you, because you do get frustrated when you do certain things and it's just not working properly, or it doesn't really help you a lot. So it is important to really find the use cases that could actually provide huge value to you. And then what Gordian said before with the proof of concept, to put your resources on that and not try everything all at once. And don't really put enough resource in one project to come up to a final solution with that. So I also see a lot of legal departments integrating like large language model tools where they start all at once. Everyone has like their own little thing. Everyone has access to it. And then after a week, no one is using it anymore. And this is why you need a more structured approach. It's good to sort of like start doing something. I think we all agree on that. But if you want this to happen and work on a larger scale, then you really need to like sit down and understand what a valuable use case could be for your company and then put the effort in.
Thank you very much, Alisha. Looking at the time, we're almost at the end, or we're actually at the end. The questions that haven't been answered just yet, we'll reach out to you afterwards. At this point, I'd like to thank all of you, Alisha, Anna, and Gordian, for joining me today. It was super interesting. I had a lot of fun. We talked a lot about different, interesting, important things when working with legal AI, legal tech, and obviously legal design. Thank you very much for joining all our attendees. Please reach out to us if you have questions. We're looking forward to getting in touch into a conversation with all of you. For that, have a great afternoon and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.